Meanwhile, Kamala's VP, Tim Walz, is being accused of lying about his rank, which is called stolen valor. But in Walz's defense in Minneapolis, stealing is legal. But misrepresenting your past for political gain, I don't see that as a problem, said one woman. Yeah, well, Walz's expression throughout the entire time did not convey steadiness. No. Like almost like unsteady weirdness.
Like a three. He could have been one of the Three Stooges, just like.
Yeah.
Waiting for an anvil to fall
go back to Walz was shocked.
If that Tim Walz, if that guy got into power.
And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
Like if Kamala died and Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, was our president.
I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz.
You know how crazy this country would be?
These guys come up with the weirdest damn ideas that you will ever imagine. You know it's true.
If clueless leadership had a mascot, it would be Tim Walz squint-smiling behind a lectern, selling yesterday's talking points like late-night infomercial cookware. The Minnesota governor, fresh off accusations that he padded his National Guard resume, now finds himself roasted in stereo by Joe Rogan and Greg Gutfeld, two guys who agree on almost nothing, except that Walz governs like a substitute teacher who lost the lesson plan. Rogan calls the stolen valor flap cosplay for attention, while Gutfeld notes that in Minneapolis, where shoplifting has been downgraded to community outreach, falsifying your rank feels weirdly on brand. Walz shrugs, offers a word salad apology, and somehow looks surprised the public expected facts instead of vibes. Watch any Walz interview and you'll see that trademark blink-blink grin routine, as if his brain just stepped on a Lego. He'll drop equity, multimodal, and holistic in the same sentence, pausing only to gauge whether listeners are awake or Googling a translator. Rogan compares it to arguing with Alexa in glitch mode. Ask a straight question about crime, and you get a TED Talk riff on shared values. Gutfeld calls him America's hall monitor with a messiah complex, a man who narrates problems he helped create, then commissions colorful infographics to prove he's really listening. Under Walz, Minneapolis morphed into a group project where nobody leads, but everybody insists on being heard. Carjackings doubled, yet the governor's answer was empathy seminars for repeat offenders and a blue ribbon task force on restorative poetry. Rogan nearly choked on elk jerky, laughing at the policy that kept bars closed but allowed strip clubs to open if they served Hot Pockets. Proof, he mused, that Walz approaches public health like someone spinning a wheel labeled lockdown, curfew, and batsu. Meanwhile, small businesses became collateral damage in a regulatory game of Simon Says. Today, you're essential. Tomorrow, you're not. Check back after lunch for updates. Education didn't escape the whirlpool. Standardized scores dropped faster than a Vikings playoff lead, while classrooms turned into therapy sessions with vending machines. Students graduated fluent in intersectional jargon, but unable to divide fractions. Walz's fix? A $20 million equity dashboard that tracks everything except whether kids can read. Gutfeld quipped that if a 7th grader asked the governor to explain long division, he'd respond with a racial justice commission. Parents begged for basics. Walz gave them buzzwords wrapped in scented candle sincerity. Press briefings feel like substitute teacher PowerPoints. Soft lighting, gentle hand gestures, no homework, and definitely no actual decisions. Hard questions about potholes or policing get buried beneath community-based stakeholder alignment. Rogan likens the experience to listening to a malfunctioning audiobook. Soothing cadence, zero substance. Gutfeld describes it as a word cloud hostage situation. If you sit through the jargon long enough, you'll applaud anything just to be released. Come spring, Minnesota enters pilot program season. That's when well-intentioned experiments roll out like traffic-calming murals. Translation, painting around potholes to look intentional, and community gardens that wilt before harvest. Each initiative gets a promo video longer than its lifespan, and every ribbon cutting shows Walz wielding a tiny gold shovel like he's unearthing buried treasure instead of a rusted shopping cart. Ask residents what changed, and they'll mention the taxpayer-funded touchscreen downtown. $275,000 to give directions you used to read on a metal sign. Rural counties feel like extras trapped in a Netflix dystopia they never auditioned for. Farmers navigate drought relief paperwork thicker than seed catalogs, only to discover grants require Wi-Fi soil sensors that don't reach beyond the barn. Snowplow routes demand equity impact statements. The storm dumps another foot while operators fill out forms. Broadband expansion means a Zoom town hall where the video lags like a badly dubbed kung fu film. Walz touts inclusivity. Locals tape "keep it simple" signs to bulletin boards, praying somebody in St. Paul reads them. Listening sessions are the governor's specialty. A polite circus where citizens queue for hours while consultants chart empathy gradients on easels. Everyone leaves with color-coded pamphlets. Nobody leaves with answers. Months later, a press release touts the action roadmap, but every hard choice gets punted past the next election. Rogan nails it. Leadership by spreadsheet. Stall long enough, and silence starts to look like strategy. Gutfeld calls it passive-aggressive Tai Chi. Elegant gestures, zero forward motion. Climate policy, Walz wants net zero emissions by 2050, which sounds noble until you realize it involves bulldozing farmland for solar arrays and banning gas-powered lawnmowers like they're assault weapons. Rogan points out the irony, a governor crusading against plastic straws in a place where the air hurts your face half the year. While families choose between heating bills and groceries, Walz live streams the unveiling of bike lanes wide enough for exactly one activist's sense of moral superiority. The Stolen Valor saga underscores a deeper pattern, style over substance. Walz once hinted he'd been a combat vet. Records show he resigned before his unit deployed. He boasted of coaching football. Turns out he handed out water bottles. Rogan says talking to him is like disputing Wikipedia edits with someone who typed them drunk. Gutfeld, flashing that fox in the henhouse grin, adds, "If mediocrity had a face, it would be hosting a ribbon cutting while crime spikes behind him." Minnesota's slogan used to be Land of 10,000 Lakes. Under Walz, it's become Land of 10,000 Task Forces. There's a commission for potholes, a council for linguistic inclusivity, a board for feelings-based budgeting. Taxes climb higher than Snoop at a Colorado dispensary, yet roads still resemble lunar landscapes. Walz shrugs, schedules another listening tour, and announces a partnership with consultants who charge by the buzzword. If the governor were a vehicle, he'd be a Prius stuck in neutral on the freeway. Quiet, self-congratulatory, and causing a 6-mile backup while flashing a bumper sticker that says coexist. Joe Rogan by this point is done diagnosing. He's simply entertained. Greg Gutfeld is collecting sound bites like souvenirs. And Tim Walz, he'll hold another town hall, promise transformative dialogue, and ask you to trust the process. Just ignore the pothole swallowing your car on the way home. That, from start to finish, is the Tim Walz experience. A marathon of middle management platitudes wrapped in executive power, thoroughly exposed by two commentators who'd rather roast nonsense than watch another PowerPoint. Whether Minnesotans laugh, cry, or finally demand a refund is up to them. Walz will keep blinking, keep smiling, and keep narrating, convinced that a fresh set of buzzwords counts as progress. But after Rogan and Gutfeld's flamethrower tour, the governor's facade looks about as sturdy as a traffic-calming mural in January. And everyone can finally see the potholes underneath. What's most unsettling is how Tim Walz has managed to recast chronic underperformance as incremental progress, the political equivalent of rebranding a leaky canoe as an immersive maritime experience. Ask small business owners on Lake Street what incremental progress feels like, and they'll point to plywood still covering windows 3 years after the riots that state leadership never really quelled. Ask parents in St. Cloud, who now carpool across district lines just to find a geometry class not devoured by budget realignments, and they'll shrug in exhaustion. Walz responds with Instagram slideshows celebrating historic investments, but those investments evaporate into studies, audits, and pilot projects that die quietly when cameras leave. He applauds himself for lowering unemployment while ignoring the exodus of mid-sized manufacturers to neighboring states with fewer regulatory minefields. He touts record surpluses, money siphoned from taxpayers who then need a GoFundMe to fix the local hockey rink because grant applications require a 37-page equity statement. Meanwhile, the governor's office leaks drafts of another Minnesota Miracle 2.0 plan, promising a carbon-neutral future powered by wind farms in counties that haven't had a straight-line gust strong enough to turn a turbine since 1998. Community meetings feature consultants assuring farmers they can plow around transmission towers just fine, the same way residents were told crime would stabilize once dialogue circles replaced patrols. Walz's talent isn't governance. It's marketing the horizon, perpetually out of reach, forever requiring another tax, another task force, another webinar on inclusive zoning. The state doesn't collapse, it drifts. A snow-covered cruise ship where the captain updates passengers with soothing platitudes while the engine sputters. Rogan calls it leadership by screensaver. Looks calm until you jiggle the mouse. Gutfeld likens it to a never-ending school assembly where the principal keeps promising donuts after one more speech, except the donuts never appear, only new rules about sugar equity and culturally responsive glazing. Minnesotans aren't asking for miracles. They're asking for potholes filled before spring potholes appear, for schools that teach multiplication before activism, for streets safe enough that porch lights aren't the primary neighborhood watch. Under Walz, those modest requests feel strangely radical.